My name is Coach Phil Schwartz. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for around 15 years now. I'm a first degree black belt under Master Eddie Bravo. Right now my focus is on simplifying the sport. I want Jiu-Jitsu to become more simple, more accessible, using fewer tools that work in more places. Today we're going to work on headlocks and headlock mastery. We're going to understand headlocks a lot better, and hopefully we're going to get into something that I call the spin cycle, which is a never-ending series of headlocks and chokes. So that's where we're going to work our way to. Since most of us haven't worked together before, I'm just going to show you guys a quick technique that's going to come up again later. And we're going to need our partner here, so I'm going to have Jordan be my partner. And so we're going to do a standing guillotine, and we're going to do a variety of the guillotine that's a no-arm guillotine. And some people call it the high elbow or high wrist, or high elbow, high wrist guillotine, okay? What does it look like? It looks a lot like a rear naked choke, but it's happening from the front, right? Instead of sliding up like you would for a rear naked choke, we just grab our wrist and we just keep pulling it high. So this is the high wrist and this is the high elbow, same thing. High elbow guillotine, high wrist guillotine. You guys see that? Okay. A lot of our guillotines, when we snap someone down and we put our wrists together, a lot of people make this mistake. They keep their hands in front of my partner's chest here. Does everyone see that? I call that the workspace, right? When you're doing your work, where do you do it? You do all your work right here. This is the workspace, right? You guys agree? So I call this the workspace. Why would I keep my hands, my grips inside of his workspace, right? So I get him into this snap guillotine, I grab my wrist here, but now watch my elbow. I'm gonna dip my shoulder as I move my elbow all the way down to my partner's chin, okay? This allows my wrist to go so high, I'm like waving to myself, right? I keep going up, 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 okay? And now I can feel that I'm on my partner's neck, all right? For the finish here, I'm just grabbing onto my chest and I'm gonna do a little side crunch. And it's a very, very, very strong guillotine, okay? Requires very little effort. We should all be able to do it standing, right? In fact, I don't even want you guys to be tense. I want you guys to be more loose and flowy, right? So watch how Jordan and I are both gonna stay loose. I'm gonna pull him in with the collar tie. My free hand is gonna go around the neck. I'm gonna grab my wrist, and as I lower my shoulder, I'm rotating until my elbow reaches the chin. I'm keeping my chest tight to Jordan's back. I'm not leaning back. He'll pull his head out, okay? When I'm in, it's a little side crunch to finish, not a big squeeze. You guys got it? All right, here we go, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so a couple of things that we can clean up here. One thing is, if I grab on here and I immediately get tight, right? When I'm tight here, nothing moves very much, right? So I kind of want to be a little bit more loose, and that's going to allow me to slide into position. My head is moving across his shoulder. See how that lets my arm get longer? My head moves across and I get around. Now, on the finish here, here's what we don't want to do. We've already gotten high. We don't want to come elbow back to finish. The finish here is like a triangle that you do with your legs. You get the triangle, right? Then you pull the head into the choke. We've all done that before, right? You pull on the head to finish the choke. That's what we're doing with the finish, okay? It's gonna look a little different though. Where's the triangle? The triangle's right here, okay? So how do I pull on the head? Well, I get in position, and what I don't do is I don't go up, 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 up. You see? That's why I do the side crunch. Side crunch, bringing my elbow down to my hip. I'm using my shoulder to push his head down into the choke. Do you guys see that? So what's pulling on the head? It's my shoulder is pulling the head into the choke, right? So watch how much more effective that is. When I go up, 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 he can get on his tippy toes too. But when I go crunch, right? I'm pushing him down into the triangle that's choking him. If I get to the high wrist, high elbow position, what are other benefits of this? What do you guys think?
You can't grab it.
He can't grab, it's outside of his workspace, right? I took it outside of his workspace. Anything down in his workspace, he keeps fighting. He keeps working on it. I took it outside. Do you guys see? So now he's scrambling to pull on something that doesn't really help him very much, as opposed to doing real damage to my control, which is attacking my grips, okay? Everything that we're gonna do today is about grip superiority. I wanna maintain the grips. I don't want him to break my grips. If my grips are opening, closing, and opening, and closing, every one of the times that I open, it may never close again. That guy might escape there, right? We need to keep our grips together, okay? So I'm gonna teach you guys today different ways to move your grips and move your body to make sure that he never gets out. Now let's talk about how we attack the neck, okay? There's only a few ways to tap somebody out with the neck. You know, who can name one of them? What do you guys think? What was that? Okay, crank and choke. Those are two of them, right? Now choke. There's two kinds of chokes. There's and air, blood and air. So those are the main three. There's blood chokes, air chokes, and cranks, right? That's pretty much it. Everything falls into those categories. Everything that we're doing today is a blood choke. It's all blood choke. We're not doing any cranks. We're not doing any air chokes, okay? If your partner, when you're drilling this, if you feel them, it's more of a crank. That was not. That was air. Please give them that feedback. They need that communication in order to clean up their techniques. When your partner does a really good rep, be like, whew, whatever you did that time, that was the one. Do another one just like that one, right? Okay? So the next one that we're gonna do here is we're gonna do the anaconda choke. The anaconda choke is a blood choke. Most blood chokes that we know of, right? It's either one loop around the head, like a rear naked choke, or like the guillotine that we just did, right? Or there's a shoulder involved, like an arm triangle, leg triangle, or this choke right here. This choke has a shoulder involved. So on one side, I'm cutting off the blood to his head with pressure on the artery. On the other side, I'm cutting off blood to his head with pressure on the artery also, but this time through his shoulder. So I'm shooting past the guillotine to the armpit, right? Okay. From here, we're gonna gable grip our hands together. I like my hand to be facing down and my hand that chops out his base to be facing up, okay? And we're gonna do what people call the gator roll or the Olympic roll, okay? So I'm going to roll my head underneath my partner, okay? My hips are gonna press forward. My partner's gonna roll, and then I'm gonna stop him right where I want to finish the choke. I'm on my toes, I'm passing my leg through, and my head goes underneath my partner. I drive with my hips, and I turn him till he's on his side. The ideal position for this choke, guys, is his head facing away from my chest. This is what's gonna make it good. Okay, I promise everyone will be able to do this. I still have my gable grip. I'm squeezing his shoulder into his neck. Squeezing, okay? When I'm ready, I'm gonna lock up this grip like a rear naked choke. I'm gonna squeeze my elbows together, and I'm gonna push my chest forward. Okay, was it blood choke?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Here are some things that are gonna mess it up. If your partner's head is not facing out of your chest, if their head is facing straight up, you see that? Now what's gonna happen? Crank, for sure it's a crank. You guys see that? Because I'm just bending his spine over my wrist right there, okay? So this is gonna happen. How do we fix this? Okay, how do we fix this? The way we fix this, okay, is I'm all ready to finish here. I'm gonna lift my elbows up and I'm gonna walk myself back under his head. Now I'm gonna squeeze and I'm gonna push his head forward. So it's all about me moving myself to get that finish there, okay? Your partners are gonna tell you right away, oh, that one was definitely a crank. Okay, well, which way was your head facing, right? So we can start just chest to back right here. I have head and the arm. I'm rolling through, I'm trapping him right here. In an ideal world, his head's already facing the right way. I slide up, I grab my bicep, I curl, I grab his lat, I squeeze my elbows together, and I walk my hips forward. Again, when I walk my hips forward, I'm pushing his head into the triangle. Do you guys see that? Still pushing the head into the triangle. This time with my chest. This is like the number one mistake, problem that people run into here, is they get through the roll, right? And everything looks good and you want to choke up, but when you go to the choke, you're choking like you're like on your fingers. You know what I mean? You want to be on the wrist, right? So, but instead you're on the fingers. And that makes it really weak because he is going to pull in your hand or go elbow wide. We're going to talk about that in a second. And if your grip here is weak because you're choking your fingers, it's not going to happen. Okay? So let's rewind. We were in the gable grip. Okay, we call this the vice grip. I'm pushing my elbow forward to get his shoulder in position, right? See that pressure? It's resisting. Like if my elbow was high, he might go run his elbow up and out of the choke, right? So I'm holding that and pushing it into position. And that also helps me pull my arm through a little bit, which is nice. But now, when I'm ready to attack, check this out. I'm gonna turn my hand away, thumb down, exposing my tricep. Does everyone see that? Instead of sliding up and grabbing my bicep, I'm pushing, I'm gonna turn down, I'm gonna grab onto my tricep. Now watch this crank that's about to happen. It's kind of like pulling up an anchor on a boat. I'm turning my thumb back up, and you guys see how that wrapped up my wrist into like super deep position. Now I squeeze, and it's very, very tight. So see how that little trick of turning my thumb, grabbing my tricep, and then reeling it back up, that took me from grabbing fingers in the bicep, which is very, very weak, to real quick. Now I'm very, very deep. Two main adjustments. Okay, the first adjustment, once we get through the roll, we're thinking about pushing that arm into position, holding it there. Making sure our bottom arm, inside arm, as tight as it can be. Then we're switching, we're grabbing deep, and we're rolling that back in before we finish. Right? One of the problems that we experience in jiu-jitsu, and probably life too, that stops us from getting what we want at the end, our end goal. What's your end goal in jiu-jitsu?
To win.
To win. Okay, to win. So how do you win?
Submission.
Submission is a great way to win, right? But if you have that knowledge and you're like, my goal is to win, I wish to win by submission, I'll win by points or referee decision, but that sucks. Winning by submission is way cooler, right? The problem is when we get this tunnel vision where we're like, I have to win by this submission. No. You have to win by submission. That's enough. You know what I mean? Win by submission. So don't stay in this one position if it's not happening. If you get it, we all know what it feels like now, right? You get it, it's on, boom, lights out, right? It's a tight choke, comes on fast. Not a lot of defense, right? We're gonna talk about the defense in a second, but the anaconda is a serious choke when it's on. If it's not happening, who's the judge of that? You're the judge of that. You have to decide where your resources are gonna go next to keep the cycle going, okay? So, we're gonna start with the same anaconda entry, but this time, my partner is gonna give me some defense. And what that defense is gonna look like is after we get through the roll, he's gonna fight his elbow wide. He knows that's the opposite of what I want. I wanna push the elbow to the net. He's gonna fight elbow wide. I roll him through, we get here, and now we're in this battle. He's pushing elbow wide, I'm trying to push the elbow in. Until I win, there's no sense in locking up. He goes elbow wide, I'm not finishing this right now. You guys see the space? So we've played with what it looks like when it's perfect. What about when it's not perfect? My partner is fighting his elbow wide here, okay? And I'm just gonna, maybe it slips under my arm, and I'm like, oh no. I'm gonna decide that this is just not working for me, okay? My hands are back in his workspace. I don't like what's going on, okay? I'm gonna switch my hips. I'm gonna come up, and I'm gonna pull my hands through to the other side of his neck. I'm trapping his arm still. Same arm is trapped against his neck. I'm pulling my arm all the way through, okay? And now I'm gonna lock up the darce on the backside, okay? So my hands came through. I was in the anaconda. He gave me elbow wide. I switch, I pull my arm through, and I lock up this darce on the backside. You're behind his workspace now, so you can't interfere. So I lock up this darce, okay? Darce works just like the anaconda. It's still a blood choke. We still want it to be a blood choke. It can definitely be a crank. So some of you guys are just gonna be like, I'm getting cranked. It's a crank, it's a crank. That's gonna happen until you learn how to really use your chest to push the shoulder into the neck properly. There's gonna be a lot of cranking. I'm just warning you that. Don't go hard on each other. But we lock this up. I'm sprawling my hips back to push my chest down. My knees are not on the ground. I'm on my toes. I'm dropping all my weight down as I pull up slightly. If I need to, if it's not happening, I can bend the head again. Bend the head. If you want to go to the ultimate head bend, you're going to step over into the mount while always keeping them turned on their side. At no point do I want him rolling flat to his back. Flat to his back is bad for me. So I'm keeping him here locked up, and then now I'm just gonna bend his neck all the way down. Okay, so one more time. Anaconda roll through. He gives me the wide elbow. I switch through, and I lock up this darce. Don't finish the darce north-south. Guaranteed to be a neck crank. Take the lock, get on your toes, walk towards the hips, push your chest into the arm, and bend the head. Okay, so far so good? Does anybody feel like they aren't getting it? Yes. Which one are you not getting? The darce? Yeah. Okay, let me see. Good, nice, good. Do you tap?
No.
Oh, okay, not tapping.
It's just like she has one side, the bottom side.
Totally.
It's getting cut off, and the top
Top side, nothing.
Nothing else.
There's another F. Where'd the ladies go? What is it? What's the problem? Skinny neck syndrome, okay? That's the problem.
It's so hard to
Skinny ass neck. I'm gonna explain again, guys, right? Look, skinny ass neck, big distance from the shoulder to the neck, right? So it takes a real deliberate movement to get that shoulder all the way over onto that neck. If there's any amount of space, it's not happening. Why? Because the way that the neck works, you have a artery on each side. You have a duplicate artery. So you close off one side, it's not enough. You have to close off both sides, right? So you're doing a good job on the bottom, he's telling you that, right? But it's that top arm that has to just get in there, right? Let me show you a little adjustment that may or may not help. Just jump on your side, okay? So I think about my chest as like the tool that I'm pushing with, right? Sometimes what happens in these darces is we get our weight kind of like on the shoulder bone here, right? And we're kind of like balanced on him, like it was like side control, right? But his shoulder doesn't actually move, right? So I want to get my chest around so I can get on something that I can push into his neck, right? So even though it's all finished up here, I'm gonna move back and I'm gonna push that arm back in, right? Let's think about how many places that exact problem that you had comes up. Look, watch. In the anaconda, I need to push his arm in and across, right? He needs to get his elbow out of the way. Does everyone see that? In the arm triangle, look. He wants to get his arm up. I want to grab it and pull it back down. Where? Why? So I can push it into his neck, right? In the leg triangle. What does he want to do? He wants to get that elbow wide. I want to get it arm back on his neck, because that's the mechanism of the choke. It's one half me, one half him. If he's not participating, I can't win, right? So it's gonna happen all over the place. In fact, all these chokes, all these arm and neck chokes, they have a component of, what if I get my arm out of there? And it's like, that messes everything up. Now that we've had this whole conversation about pushing the arm, pushing the shoulder into the neck, let's make these anacondas a little bit more deliberate from the beginning, right? I'm really trying to squeeze his arm in. He has base. He doesn't want that arm to go in. In fact, you can hurt people sometimes accidentally if their arm hyperextends when you're trying to roll them, so be careful with that, right? But look at how I'm really trying to break that posture from the beginning, right? As I roll through, I'm already on it. So when I choke up, I'm ready to go. If he goes elbow wide here and I have to switch to the darce, now I have to look how I'm recapturing this with my chest, right? I'm pushing it down, I'm getting in position, I'm squeezing for the darce. His next options here is he still wants to go elbow wide. So he's gonna go elbow wide on the inside, and he's gonna get up to quarters. He's gonna come back up to like a wrestler's position, which is right where we started from. That's right where we started from. You guys see that? And now he put his elbows back on the mat, and he's using the mat and his elbow as a frame to stop me from being able to bring this back into his neck. That's a good move. You guys understand? Watch it one more time. I broke him down. I rolled him through. I'm trying to hit the anaconda. He forces me to the darce. I'm trying to hit the darce. He builds up. If I stay here, he'll get so wide that my grip will break. We talked at the beginning of the seminar about not getting tunnel vision, right? We don't want tunnel vision. We were on the anaconda. When it was time to move to the darce, we moved to the darce, right? Now this darce is failing. I could stay here and fight the darce, but he's already in darce fighting mode. He's already doing all the right things to kill darces. You know, that's where his attention is. So, I roll him through, I hit the darce, he gets up, he gets wide. All right, well, when he's wide here, guess what he's not defending? Inside neck. So I'm gonna come through again, right up to the high elbow, high wrist, and I'm gonna fall slowly back into a side crunch, and it's over very, very fast. Okay? This is why I call this the spin cycle, because if you stay in it for a couple of rounds, you're like really dizzy. It's a lot of spinning, okay? No matter what decision he makes though, I have something for that. You guys understand? Because I don't have tunnel vision, I'm willing to hop to the next thing as soon as it becomes available, right? And I get something way better than what I could have got maybe if I had just stayed and fought for one position. We've looped it, we've come full circle now to the first move we did, which was the high wrist, high elbow guillotine. This is where it becomes Groundhog Day, okay? What can happen here is my partner can try to get out of the guillotine. How do you get out of the guillotine, right? Well, the first thing he can try and do is he can try and hop over me, okay? It's a rule in our school. If your head goes on one side, your hips go the other side. I think that's just a jiu-jitsu rule, right? If he's passing my guard, he puts whatever side his head goes to, his hips have to go to the other side, right? Let's try and test that. What if his head goes one side and then his hips go the same side? Then he's in a guillotine danger. See? If he puts his head in to pass guard and I catch a guillotine, as long as his hips go to the other side, he's not in danger, I'm in danger. Von Flew choke all day here. his back for me, right? Your coach will just tell you, dude, let go of the guillotine. Start framing, start shrimping, right? All because you followed that rule. Head on one side, hips on the other side, right? Therefore, when we go for a guillotine, what's the one thing we're thinking about? We're like, okay, make sure that his hips cannot get over, right? That's why we do this little guillotine side guard. I've even heard someone say, call it G guard, because it kind of looks like a G here, right? But all we're talking about is a shin across the belly and a wrap, okay? I'm not choking him here right now, but just watch him try to get his hips to the other side. It's gonna be really hard, you know? It's really hard. The advantage here is it's easy for me to turn on my side. It's the difference between this and like full guard is like, full guard's good for guillotines too, but it puts me more flat on my back, right? This makes it easy to turn on my side. Impossible, very difficult for him to get his hips over. So what's the next thing he can try to do to escape here? I heard it, what did he say? Roll through. He can try to roll through. See? That kills the guillotine. All right? But now we go right back into the anaconda. Now we're back into the beginning of the loop. Let's do it one more time. I have him in his deep guillotine. He decides to roll through. All I have to do is catch the elbow, catch the tricep, and we're back in. The whole thing starts over. If I can finish my anaconda here, I finish my anaconda. He goes wide elbow, I drive back up. He comes back up, I push it out again. I finish it, or he rolls through, where I catch the elbow, catch the arm, and I bring it back together. Okay? It's endless. But in order to make it work, it runs on the fuel of those 3 submissions. You have to make those 3 submissions credible. Darce, anaconda, guillotine. You have to have credible threats. You have to be willing to not have tunnel vision. Move on to the next thing. Move on to the next thing. What we're not gonna do, separate our hands. We're not gonna break our grips. We're gonna keep our grips intact, especially when they're in danger of him grabbing them. On the outside of his workspace, different story. But inside, where he can attack, no way. Not letting him get inside my grips there. Okay, guys? So, that's a lot to chew on. It's a lot of information. I respect you guys for trying to get this all in one day. It is obviously way more than any one person can absorb in one day, right? We are planting seeds for things that we're gonna work for years and years and years.